Hey everyone, Rocket Randall here, and I'm super excited for today's video, which is all about designing the new Glen model rocket. We're going to go over how the features were designed, how it was tested, and any failures we had along the way. As a reminder, this rocket is available from maxqrockets.com, so head on over there if you want one. And if you're interested in 3D model printing of model rockets, go ahead and like and subscribe this video so you can stay up to date on all of our new content. So the first thing I always try to decide is what scale to make the model at, because as I'm designing things, I have to figure out that scale ahead of time so everything's the right size. Now my favorite scale is 1/100 scale, and most of the rockets you see behind me are 1/100 scale. Now the Starship and that one of the SLS are both 1/144 scale. So when I was looking at designing this model rocket, I thought, let's do a mock-up and see what a 1/100 scale would be. And here's what it looks like. Now, I know some of you are immediately heading to put in the comments right now, make it that scale, I want to buy one of those. Well, here's the thing. When I start making rockets, I try to make them very accessible. And this is a really big rocket. In fact, I'm betting it's even out of the frame right now when I put it on the table. This one, I try to keep it around this size for my rockets so that the average person can build them, put them someplace, and launch it with some easily accessible motors. So this one, while at some point I really want to make this as a 1/100 scale, it's just too big for the first version of the rocket. Let's talk landing legs. Now, the real New Glen rocket has 6 landing legs in this part that bows out a little bit at the bottom. And I originally started designing those. And you can see in this one that I printed out, there's these cavities cut out with some grooves in them to snap pieces into. And I got a long way into the modeling of it, and then I started trying to print it out. And this is the actual landing leg here that kind of folds down. This is the top flap that goes over the top. When it comes together, it closes together like this and then opens out. And then I started printing some struts. And what I found was these pieces were really, really tiny, and you couldn't really get the definition needed to get them to snap together and actuate properly. And it just wasn't coming together. And I said, you know what? For the 1/144 scale of this, I'm just going to not have legs. And that hurts my heart, but it was the right decision for this one. The weight of this came out really nice, making it fly really well. But on the 1/100 scale, I'm going to revisit that and try again to get some working legs. So at some point in the future, when I go back to the 1/100, it might have some landing legs. All right, the next most distinguishing characteristic of the New Glen rocket is the strakes at the bottom and the fins. I know you want to call them grid fins, but these do not have grids. In the Starship and the Falcon 9, there are grids on them that are flat. These are just fins that sit along the side. Now, I have some experience doing that with the the Starship, and let me pull that over here, and we'll take a look. So inside of this, I had already designed the system that it snaps in. It's got the little pinch parts on the inside. The key though was, how do I get it so that the body holds the snap fins in place? And that's what I solved with Starship. And with this one, when I would snap it into the body was way too thin and it was curved. And so those snaps would wobble all over the place. And what I did is I elongated out and made a flat backing to it with a hole right down the middle that it could snap into and hold. And then I chamfered the edges so that it would print really well. And when I tested that out and I snapped it in there, it worked perfectly. So I replicated that with New Glen. What I did is I designed these fins so that they snap in and out. They've got a little bit of bulb on the bottom with an empty cavity in the middle, so they snap in there real nice. Inside it has the beveled edge that with a flat backing, so that it'll snap in there really, really nice and holds really strong. I know some people like to glue these in. You're more than welcome to do that. I like to have them just in there so that they twist just like the real rocket. Same thing is true with the Strakes. It has these nice clips on the back and then some holes with the beveling in the back end. And then these just snap in there really nice. Came together really nice. Again, you could glue those too. It's really up to you. Let's talk about colors. So as they were making renderings of the New Glen rocket, as they were building it, it wasn't really clear what colors they were going to come up with. And there was a lot of different renderings. Some of them had a white engine bell, some had a black engine bell, some of them had white strakes and fins, some of them had black strakes and fins. One of them had white strakes with a black outer border. And that was really making me nervous because I thought I'm going to have to do a dual color print and that's going to take a lot more time and be more complex. But luckily, the final ones did not have that. This is the first one that I printed out to go test out to see how it functioned functionally. And I assumed it was going to be all white with the black engine bell. That was what most of the most recent renderings were showing. Even in the first Pathfinder versions, this is the coloration as they were testing it out, rolling it out. I thought that's probably what they're going to go with. Then, as they did the first flight hardware coming around, we started seeing this goldish color. And I thought, that's odd. But I said, okay, I mean, changing the colors is not that bad. I just have to find the right color. With 3D printer filament, it's really easy to find some of the basic colors, like the whites, the blacks, the yellows, greens, blues. But when you get into more esoteric colors, sometimes it's really hard to find them, particularly in ABS, which is the type of plastic I like to print in. So I looked around and I found that Polymaker had this beautiful gold color. So I ordered a roll, got it, printed out some, and it looked absolutely fantastic. I said, perfect, I've got it, ordered some more rolls and started printing up the production copies. So ended up that the engine bell was gold, the strakes are gold, the interstage up here, the 4 section, and the fins all were gold. And I said, okay. So I had to redesign a little bit, but ended up with it just really nice, just like the real rocket. Finally, let's talk decals. This one comes with 5 decals from the blue at the bottom all the way up to the feather at the top. And getting the decals right is really what brings the rocket together. Going from just some plastic rocket to, wow, that's exactly what that is. And most of this is fairly easy. The Blue Origin and the New Glenn are pretty straightforward. I just had to find the right font and get the kerning correct so that it looked exactly like the real rocket. Flag I have standard, just get it the right size. I did find their feather, although interestingly, the original feather was a darker black. And when we saw the flight hardware, it was a lighter gray, so I tried to match that as much as possible. This blue band around the bottom is the most interesting. I have the launch lug here and the raceway along the back, and I figured, why don't I use that as kind of guides on how to start and stop the blue band. And if you line that up, you end up with this bulge at the front, right in the middle. So that's kind of how I designed it. And there's, of course, a white feather in the middle there. There's really tiny words on the real rocket that says the name of the rocket. Each one's going to be different. I did not do that here, but that's something that we might want to look at in the future. So the decals, like I said, really brings the rocket together, and I really like these ones. Let's talk testing. So, like I said, this is the first rocket I printed out in the New Glenn family, and I took it out to the field to give it a test. Put a D12.3, all of these tests are in a D12.3, and keep in mind, this video is not intended to be shared. It was just me trying to document how it flew, to see if there was any problems with it, and to give it a try. So let's take a look at that footage now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it down. Nope.
Overall, not too bad of a launch. It did arc over a little bit at the top. It was a very windy day. That's why I launched it into the wind, and it came back quite a bit as it was coming in for a landing. When it landed, it did break one of the fins. I took a look, and it looks like the fins were a little too thin and weak. And so I added some ribbing to the inside and made the fins quite a bit thicker, and that seems to have fixed that a lot. The other thing with this is I took it home. I thought it was pretty much successful. Then I turned it over and took a look at the bottom. And I don't know if you can see this, but there are 7 engine bells on the bottom, and all of them melted and deformed. And I expect a little bit of deformation from the center one that the exhaust is actually going through, but there was way more deformation than I like down here. So I went back and I redesigned this. I made it a lot less deep and thicker so that it can withstand the melting a lot more. So we'll take a look at how the next rocket did after that and see if we fixed that problem. Second test flight, I printed out another model, had the redesigned engine bells at the bottom, but most of it was pretty much the same. So let's take a look at the footage. I will say for this one, my launch stand completely broke, so I ended up just sticking the launch rod in the ground with the launch plate. Please forgive me for that. I was just trying to get that out on a day when I had a chance to get it launched. So let's take a look at that footage.
3, 2, 1.
something came apart.
All right, there's a lot of things that went well with that launch on the launch part. Now, eagle eye viewers will notice that there's something missing with this rocket, like the entire top half. When I was putting this rocket together and tying the shock cord together, I realized that the bar to tie it on was in the middle of this bottom section. So I tied a slip knot, and that's exactly what it did. It slipped. When the engine came out, the slip knot slipped, and the top floated away with the parachute. It went at least a mile away. It was gone. I went looking for it, but didn't find it. So let's take a look at the engine bells first, and they look actually really good. These 6 outer ones look just about perfect. The inner one has just a slight deformation. Pretty happy with that. We did still break a fin, so I've again strengthened it up yet a little bit more. And also, because of the color change and the problem I had with the slip knot, I decided to redesign the entire booster section. So in this one, it was in 2 sections, this section here and this section here. And the tie part is in the middle of this section here. So with the new one, I needed to already cut out this part because I needed to color it instead of it being white, the interstage part. And so I did that, and then this part I cut in half to make it so they could print on a reasonable size printer. So now there's a cut right here, which is the LOX and the methane, I can't remember which is which, and then the interstage is the color. So that makes it so the tie is now at a break point in the rocket, so it's much easier to get a good tie on it, add some glue to it, get it to lock really nice, so you don't end up losing half of your rocket. So there you have it. That is how I designed the important parts of the New Glenn model rocket kit. I really had a good time doing it, and I'm really happy with the results. If you have any questions about how anything was designed or anything that I skipped, please leave them in the comments below, and I will get back to you. I love to hear your comments and feedback, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say about it. Keep your eyes in the sky with Max Q Rockets.